All right, so today I'm going to make a Nextbot, and it's a Bigfoot Nextbot. You can see him hiding behind that tree. He's going to go up to that house, disappears for a little bit. Oh, then he's going to go running. He's on patrol. If you get too close to him, though, he senses you, and he's going to come after you. Oh, man. And there's no running from Bigfoot. I mean, you can run, but he's never going to give up. And then he just jumps on your head, and then he runs off. I don't have any damage script on him or anything like that. You could easily do that. But I thought this would be pretty cool. So he's going to go off into the distance, disappear, and then he'll respawn at some other point. All right, so I got an empty world right here. Let's go ahead and start making our next bot. I'm going to add a part to the world. And this is going to be the part that would touch somebody. So you'd put damage on there or maybe trigger an animation in whatever you touch. So I'm going to make it a little bigger. We're going to make it invisible and turn can collide off once we get it working. So I'll call this Bigfoot. So essentially that's going to be my Bigfoot. And let's add a BillboardGui to this. Go to the plus sign, B for BillboardGui. There we go. And the BillboardGui, we're going to add an image label. Image label is a little low. Let's move him up. So I'm going to move my BillboardGui up first. So select BillboardGui. Adorn, let's do that. Adorn, click here in that space, and then hit your Bigfoot part. Don't hit always on top. Oops. There we go. Don't hit always on top right here because then he won't be able to hide behind stuff. Let's see. Let's do max distance is infinite. I think I might make it like 300 studs so it could disappear if it gets too far. And then I'm going to skip size for a second. I'm going to go down to studs offset. I'm going to pop that up, maybe 8 studs. So it's in the air. Alrighty. Now go to size. Let's open it up. Size is a little different for scale than it is for UI components. If I make this 15 on the scale and 0 pixel offset, and then for the Y, 15 for scale, 0 pixel offset, I kind of get an outline that I like. Let's go ahead and stretch out that image icon or that image label. Select image label, go to size. Now this is the regular scale. So if I do 1, 0, 1, 0, it's going to be 100% of the X and Y of the parent object. That's pretty good. All right, I'll put the link in the description of the Bigfoot if you want that one, but you can get your own image stuff, right? So I'll go to Toolbox. You could search for images that you want to make your Nextbot out of. If you want to do the Bigfoot, see, I have an image of him here. I have a bunch of them. I kept messing them up. There we go. This will work. I'll right click, copy asset ID, and then under the image label, let's look for our image. Here it is. Image, Control V. And if you have something on your computer, you could do the add image and load it up. Just be careful. Roblox has some kind of funny software for checking to see if it's bad images. And you could like upload a cookie and then get banned or something like that. So that's kind of goofy still. That's why I do this. I usually do this stuff under an account that isn't verified so that if I do get like in trouble, I just get another account. All right. Not that I would do that intentionally, but it's easy to do by accident with Roblox. All right, so image label. Let's go to background transparency, do 1, and we just see our Bigfoot. Cool. Now we need a scary monster roar for Bigfoot. So let's go to our toolbox, and under marketplace, we'll go to audio. Let's search on roar. Monster roar. That's pretty good. That's what I used in the demo. I'm going to click on my Bigfoot part. I'm going to hit insert. Boom, there it goes. And you can drag it around if you had something else selected by accident. Let's get rid of some of that name. We only need it to be roar. And I'll close this. And I'm also going to put some waypoints down. I need an origin from from where he's going to spawn. So let's put a part there. This is going to be my origin. Origin. Cool. And let's anchor it. Let's go ahead and do that. Anchor it. I'm not going to turn, I'll turn Can Collide off and anchored on, but I'm not going to make it invisible yet. I make the parts invisible near the end because I want to be able to see them while I'm working on them. All right, we need a couple of waypoints where he can go like behind trees and houses and stuff. So I'll add another part. This is going to be a waypoint and WP1, Control D. Collisions are off, so it duplicated in place. We'll do another one. Control D. There we go. We got 3 of them. And let's name these. Let's give them unique names. So we have waypoint 1 was the first one. Waypoint 2 is the second. And we'll make this one waypoint 3. All right. Let's put that in a group. So get the waypoint 1 and then shift click down at waypoint 3. Right click, group as model. You can actually do folder too. It won't make a difference. I'll call this WPS is waypoints WPS. Cool. Now with waypoints selected, I'm going to shift click, select Bigfoot, shift click, select origin, right click. I'm going to make that a model group. And I'm going to call this Bigfoot Nextbot. Let's add a script to Bigfoot now. We're going to go to our Bigfoot Nextbot, and then I think I'm going to put it on the model level, right? Not on the part level. Put your damage or whatever you want to happen when Bigfoot touches the player on the Bigfoot block here. I'm just going to put my script for moving them around, right? Like my chase or move. I'll call it move it. Move it. And maybe I'll make that a little bigger so you can see it better. Let's get some variables. So I'm going to need my players service because I want to look for players in the game so I could chase them. Do game get service players. And I need my tween service, right? I'll call it TS. Game get service, tween service, because we're going to get some smooth movement while we're doing our chasing. We need a reference to our chase block. That's the one I call Bigfoot. But here I'm going to call it chase block so I don't forget what it is. So we have script dot parent, right? And then that's the model level. We're going to go down to Bigfoot. So that's our chase block. All right, what else? Well, we could do tween info. Let's put that right under the tween service, right? And that's just going to be the time it takes for the tween to happen. Tween info, I'll just make it like 0.1 second. It's going to be kind of fast movement. Right, and then I need a reference to my roar sound, right? So roar, is that spelled right? Roar sound, script dot parent, and where's that at? That's on my part. So I can do this. I can do chase block roar, cool. And then my waypoints WPS script dot parent, and then we're going to go to waypoints. And let's do a get children, so it puts it in a table. So WPS will be a table. Let's get a reference to our origin where we're going to, Bigfoot's going to spawn, right? So script.parent origin. What else? Oh, we need our image. We need the image. Let's name the image too. I don't think I named it. I called that Bigfoot. I'll keep that BillboardGui. I'm going to call this Bigfoot image so it's a little more descriptive. We'll say Bigfoot image. And then I'm going to make a reference to it. I'll say local. Now that's on the chase block, right? We have our, let's do our Bigfoot image variable. Bigfoot image. And that's on the chase block. I was getting ahead of myself. That's on the, and then we have the BillboardGui underneath the chase block and the Bigfoot image underneath the BillboardGui. It gets a little bit confusing. Oh, and then let's start out with the Bigfoot image visible equals false, so we don't see exactly when it's just sitting there, right? Because we're going to keep it in the world until we spawn them. I'm not going to put them in server storage or anything. Just going to keep them invisible. All right, which means you'd have to turn off your damage script on your block if you had that. All right, I'm going to have an up-down movement for when he kind of walks, right? And I think I'll make that 2 studs. And then I'm going to have a step size. I'll make that 3 studs. And then I need a variable for if he's hungry, right? Because once he eats somebody, like he captures somebody, he's going to run off and he's not going to be hungry anymore. So it's going to break the loop. So I'm going to say is hungry will be, let's start him off as true, right? When we spawn him, he's going to be hungry. And I need a random number generator. I'll call that RND. That's going to be from my waypoints. Do random.new. And you can put a tick value in here for a seed value just to get a new sequence of random numbers every time you run your script, every time you start up your server. Now that we have our variables defined, let's go ahead and make an outline of our functions. So the first function I think I'm going to want is local function is goal reached, right? Did I get to the place I want to go? I'm going to pass in a part for that. I'm thinking either waypoint or humanoid root part. How close did I get? Is it sufficient? And I'm going to do another function, local function. This one's going to be find closest, did I spell that right? Closest players. I'll just say find closest player HRP. The humanoid root part of the closest player, but within a distance of interest. I'll call that dist of int. All right, what else? I'm going to need a function, local function for go to part. And that part could be a humanoid root part or it could be a regular part. We'll just say part. Maybe make that P0 again. That'll be our convention. We'll pass in P0 for the part. And let's see. Local function Bigfoot awakes. Yeah. And now you could have like a bindable event that fires if some world event happens, like maybe somebody comes into an area. But I think here what I'm going to do is I'll just do a wait for 8 seconds and then a while loop that will periodically wake Bigfoot up. So I'm going to do a while true do, and I'm going to make Bigfoot hungry is true. And then Bigfoot will wake up. Bigfoot awakes. And after he wakes up and does his damage, then we'll wait maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But for testing, I think I'm just going to make it like 10 seconds in case I want to wait a few rounds. All right, so Bigfoot awakes is the main driver in this script. Let's start working on that first. So I want to get my chase block. That's the block underneath Bigfoot. I'm going to set the position of the chase block to the origin position. The origin is that block that I put where we want to spawn Bigfoot. Then I'm going to get my Bigfoot image and I'm going to set the visible property to true. After it's visible, I'm going to get an index. I'll call that IDX. I'll get a random number from my random number generator, RND. Next integer, between and inclusive, 1, and the number of elements in the WPS table. This is my waypoint table right here. So there's 3 of them. So between 1 and 3 inclusive. All right, once I got that index, I'm going to go to the part. I'll get my WPS and then IDX. Those are square brackets in there. I'm accessing one of these parts inside my table. Now I'll get a while loop. So I'm going to say while is hungry do, right? I'm going to look for a humanoid root part while I'm on patrol of a player. So local HRP, find closest player HRP, and remember the distance of interest, I'll set it to 50. If we find an HRP, then go to part HRP, right? Not a waypoint, but a humanoid root part. I'll say is hungry is then going to be false, because when we catch him and we leave this function, then we're going to no longer be hungry because we ate the person or did whatever, right? But we might not find an HRP, so if we don't, we are going to do this again. I'm going to copy from IDX down one line. Here we go. So we'll get a new index, and now we'll just go to that part, right? Back and forth, back and forth. Make sure you put a little wait statement. I'm going to give it a full second, right? And then we can make him turn invisible here too. In between our escapades, he might be hiding behind a tree. All right, and then when we're done, so is hungry is no longer true. We get down here, go to part, origin. And then what we might want to do is set our Bigfoot image to the visible to false. So go to part is going to be the function that moves my Bigfoot toward either a waypoint or a character, a player in this case. Now, if the player dies when we're going to the part, we have to stop the chase. So I'm going to need a little more information in here. If it's a waypoint, that's fine. I'll just pass the waypoint. If it's a humanoid root part, what I think I'm going to do is get the HRP's parent and then the humanoid that's attached to the parent. I'm pretty confident it's going to be there because the HRP is there, right? So when we come up here, let's pass in a humanoid. That's okay. Here, it's just going to be nil. If it's nil, we're not going to do anything with it. If there's something there, we have to check the health. So now I got my go-to part. Let's do a roar sound. We'll play that. And then I'm going to do a while loop. So I'm going to do while not is goal reached. And we have our part for the goal, right? We don't have anything in here yet. We're going to fill that out. But also, I'm going to pass in the humanoid because I'll do the test to see if there's health on the humanoid. If there's not, the goal is reached. There we go. So we do that little loop there. What are we going to put in the loop? Well, we're going to put a direction. So local direction, I'm going to make a C frame. I'll do a new C frame. This is the block, the chase block's position is the location of the C frame. The P naught position is the direction the C frame is facing. We'll get the look vector, which is a unit vector. It's of length 1, facing straight out from the position, from the C frame, from where it's facing. And then I'm going to multiply it by the step size to make that number a little bigger. So the step size is 2, so the unit vector is multiplied by 2, making it 2. So we're going to move 2 studs for each iteration of this loop. What I need to do now is get a goal for my tween. So tween is a animation, a type of animation we're going to use for the movement. I'm going to say goal. Well, we're going to use the position. So these are curly brackets because the goal is a table of things that you're going to reach. You could change a lot of things like size, color, different things. We're just going to do position. So I put position there as my key. And then for my value, I'm going to use the chase block position plus a vector3 new. I'll use dir, which is the direction I just calculated for x. I'm going to have my up down, that variable that I defined up top, so that it bounces, right, on each tween. And then I'm going to do dir z. And that's the direction that we're going to go to. This is what I want to have my Bigfoot part get to at the end of my tween. So that's the goal. And this is where we're going to put it. We're going to get a variable for the tween. We're going to use the tween service. We're going to create a tween. I know this is kind of tedious. We'll do the chase block, the tween info, which is just time in there. It's 0.1 seconds, and then the goal. So at the end of that 0.1 seconds, we're going to get some smooth movement going to the goal. And this is what we're moving, right? That's what we're moving. This is the information, which is just the time. That is the end of the tween. That's the goal. So we'll get the tween, and then we'll play it. This is the part I always forget. Play the tween. We are going to wait, for the tween to be completed. There's an event. Fires when it's completed. So we're going to wait there until that happens. And then the up, down, we're going to multiply by -1. So this is going to be +1, negative, or I think it's, what did I have? 2, right? I have a 2. Up, down is 2. It's +2, -2, +2. So he's going to bounce up and down, right? So you change your up, down if you want to increase this. This is just making it negative and positive. All right. That's pretty cool. So now let's go ahead and start working on find closest player and is goal reached. Now let's complete the function for find closest player HRP. How do we do that? Well, let's go ahead and make a variable for the closest HRP and initialize it to nil, because there might not be any humanoid root parts within our distance of interest. So let's do a for loop for I and PLY in pairs with the players service. And we define that up above. We're going to get the children in the player service. That's going to give me all the players that are in my world, in my scene. And then this is going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is going to be the different players that we cycle through. So we can check. We'll get the char, the character from the player, PLY, character. Now the character might not be there, and we don't want to wait if it isn't, because somebody might have just died, right? And then you're just waiting for the respawn. So I'm going to say if char, then, right? Then I'll say local HRP equals char. I'm going to do a find first child humanoid root part. All right. If the HRP exists, then let's find the distance, say local distance between the chase block's position, and we're going to subtract HRP position, and then get the magnitude. Magnitude. I spell that wrong an awful lot. I think it's an I. Okay, cool. And then if the distance is less than the distance of interest, we need to pay attention. Whoops, then. All right, so then we'll get the distance of interest and reset that to the current distance, because we found something closer than the distance of interest. So we only want to look closer than that. We're going to assign the closest HRP to that one that we found. So every iteration of the loop, this is going to only fire if we're getting closer and closer with the different players. Essentially, in the end, we're going to get the closest HRP. I mean, we might get nil. So let's go down here and return the closest HRP. Now, when we go to Bigfoot Awakes and we find our closest player humanoid root part, this might be nil if we don't find anybody, or it might be the closest one. And then we'll go to the part. Otherwise, we'll go to a waypoint. Cool. What else do we need? We still don't have whether our goal is reached. Let's do that. Let's go to is goal reached. It's going to be pretty simple. First thing I'm going to do is check to see if there's a humanoid. Remember, we passed in the humanoid, right? Just in case, because if the character's dead, we got to know, right? Let's just check. I'm going to do a Control F to search on is goal reached to make sure I have humanoids where I want them. Yep. Go to the part. All right, and we only used it one time, so it's no problem. All right, so if humanoid and hum.health is less than 1, right? We're going to say he's dead, right? Then is hungry is going to be false, right? He ate. Somebody's dead. Even if you didn't kill him, we'll give him credit for that. And then we're going to say return true, right? So goal was reached. His target is dead. Even if he didn't kill him, the target's dead. Otherwise, maybe there is no humanoid, or maybe he's already dead. We're going to get down here. We'll do chase block position minus P0 position. There we go. Get the magnitude there. And if it's less than, let's say, 3 studs, then we'll say you reached your goal. And you can tighten that up if you want. Then we'll return true. So those are the only 2 things that's going to return true. If he's dead or if he's within 3 studs. Now you could do down here return false. But if you don't do any return, it's going to return nil, which will be treated as false. Let's go ahead and see how this works. Before I test my game, I'm going to make these parts invisible. I'll keep the origin visible so I can see where Bigfoot's coming from. I can't select this because it's in a model. I'm going to hit the Alt tab or the Alt button. That allows me to select it inside the model. Alt Control allows me to select more than one thing inside the model by clicking on it. And we got all 4 of these selected. Let's make it transparent. 1. Transparency 1. Go down to Can Collide. Turn that off. And then anchored on. Yeah, let's give it a try. See what we got. Yeah, I want to get out of the way so the Bigfoot doesn't get me right away. I want to see him hit a couple waypoints. Here he comes. That's not bad. The roar's happening too much. I'm going to change that. We don't have enough waypoints, and they're not far enough away. The roar's happening too often. Let's go to the move it. And, ooh, look right here. Go to part is where our roar sound is playing. I'm going to get this. I'm going to cut this. Control X. I'm going to make my own function for the roar. I'll say local function roar. Make sure your roar sound isn't actually called the same as your function though, because you might mess it up. All right, in here, I'm going to do a while loop. I'm going to say while is hungry. That's a good one. While is hungry, let's do the roar. And let's wait until it finishes. Let's see how long the roar is. Roar. Yeah, ooh, it's 8 seconds, 8.11 seconds. So I'll do my roar sound dot time length to wait. And then let's put a little randomness in there. Say local, I'll make a variable T for time. RND, next integer, maybe between 1 and 3 seconds. You might actually want to do next number to get even more variability. You don't want it to be too rhythmic. We'll say wait T, and then this is going to continue to loop while he's hungry if we call it. We haven't called it yet. But in Bigfoot wakes, we do set is hungry before we call Bigfoot awakes. So I think I don't want to tie up my thread. I'll do a spawn. So spawn's not going to tie up the thread, but just put the function name in here. Don't put the parentheses. So this will spawn its own thread so that the code will continue after it starts the roar. That's pretty good. Let's try that out. And I'm going to get away from my spawn location so I can hit a couple waypoints first. Here comes Bigfoot. He roared. Yeah. Roared again. I like that. That's a little better. Let's see if he chases us. Make sure we didn't mess that up. Yeah. And he won't roar going back because is hungry is off. You could probably speed the roar up a little bit now, but you know how to do that with the spawn. And then one other thing. If we look at Bigfoot awakes, when he's chasing a part, he's not going to break off to find the closest humanoid root part. You could do something with a find closest player HRP in a spawn, and then for this is goal reached, you could break it if you get a new HRP and make him chase after the new player who's closer. Just something you might want to add. I know this is a pretty in-depth video. I'll see you in the next one.